Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. Finally got some rest, and today we ended up getting some breaking news that was announced in-game via system mail from the developers on a migration rules FAQ or Q&A. Have not read this at all yet. I've heard a bunch from some people, so we're going to dive in. I'm going to give you my first reactions, and then we'll also be comparing however much information they give us to how RoK's system is, and we're going to show you that as a potential reference. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up, because it helps out a lot. So here we go. Question number 1. How is the required amount of migration permits calculated? The required amount of migration permits is determined by your power. Generally speaking, the higher your power, the more migration permits you'll need for migration. Okay, simple enough. For example, you'll only need 1 migration permit for migration if you have 10 million power or less. Oh, so the first thing, we're already noticing a difference. If you remember, before this, they announced that it would be 5 million power or less for 1 permit. Now, it's 10 million power for 1 permit. Or 10 million power or less. So they've doubled that, which is really a buff, right? Then we get to, but you'll need, there's always a but, you'll need 60 migration permits if you have 100 million power or more. Interesting. The required amount of migration permits is divided into several tiers depending on your power. Details can be found on the in-game page once the migration feature is launched. Okay. So this could be pretty big. And I say that because if you only need 60 migration permits if you have 100 million power or more, that means that if you're 200 million, 300, 400, 500 million power, you only need 60 permits. So let me give you an example here. So shout out to my homegirl AP, Abuse Panda, lovely lady. And what you'll see here, I don't know if you can see the one, oh, so you can't see below 975. But basically what this shows, and I'll just show it to you here. I think it's here, yeah. So what you'll see here is that you need 75 passports for 100 million and more power, right? In COD, they're saying you only need 60 passports. So you need 15 passports less, and it'll cover you for beyond 100 mil, right? So from 75, I don't even know let's do some math. What's 15? Let's do some math here once this thing pops up. What's 15 divided by 75? Okay, so what you're saving? Was that 20%? 30? Yeah, 60. Okay, yeah. So you're saving 20% cheaper is the passport cost at 100 million plus. Now, again, we'll have to see what the breakdown is. Will it basically be something like this, but instead of it being 75, it'll be 60, of course, at the end? So we still have kind of this 1, 2, 3, right? Again, basically what it means is that the amounts probably for everyone is going to be cheaper, but you're probably going to start noticing them being cheaper at like the mid to higher power levels. And then until you end up getting to the top one, right, which in COD is now going to be 60 passports. Okay, so this actually isn't bad. Again, it is a little bit, I feel like it's a little bit more favorable now in COD than it is in RoK if we're just looking at the passport system at face value, right? Now, of course, we'd have to do some deep dives into like power to power, training to training, cost, value per tier unit. I mean, things like that if you really want to break down like an overall account's worth in COD versus RoK. But at face value, the passport system is already seeming to be more favorable in COD than it is in RoK thus far. Okay, so now let's go to how do I get migration permits? There are 2 main ways to get migration permits. One, by purchasing them in the Alliance store, okay? The price is expected to be around 400,000 Alliance points. 1 migration permit will refresh each week. By purchasing monthly bundles that contain them, and then the 2, this is the other way. So you can do it by Alliance Store or by bundles, right? Details are subject to the live version of the game. Now, it's going to cost 400,000 Alliance points, and you can get 1 per week. So you get 4 per month. Again, if we go back, you can see, how about we don't click on things? It's 600,000 credits. So you're saving 33% on this, a third of the cost. It's cheaper. So not only is it cheaper at most likely what will be probably around like the early mid to mid and then later power levels, but it's also cheaper to get credits all around. Now, you still would have to compare what's the credit income rate in RoK versus COD, just to make sure that those things are kind of 1-to-1 ratios, but the fact that it is a third cheaper, I still feel like at face value, it is at least a little bit of a win. Okay. So we know that. And then obviously the bundle, so being able to purchase. Now, I don't know if they go over any purchase details, but for those of you that are curious, right, this is what the purchase details are in RoK, at least from the last updated. This is kind of end of 2022, and I didn't see anything new posted on pins in the questions or general chat on the RoK Discord as I checked before this. And so you can see it's like 115, right? So it's 385 will get you 20 passports per month. And then obviously if you double that, right, you can then get the 45, right? It says cost in USD for 2 months. But basically, if you were to max buy the bundle, which would be $385, you would get 20 passports in RoK. Will $385 get you 60 passports in COD? Possibly. Let's see if they give us any more details. And then we get question 3. When will the new migration feature be launched? We expect to launch the new feature on the 19th. So that's 8 days from now with V1.026 of the game. So that means that patch notes will probably be coming out this week, I would assume, probably in the next couple days. Because if they want to try and get the patch notes out usually a week in advance, I would argue that we're probably going to be seeing the patch notes dropping Wednesday, Thursday at the earliest. Will there be, question 4, will there be any changes to the server section of the Lord page after migration? To the server section of the Lord page. Okay. After migration, this section will change to your new server. Okay. Basically, it's like the profile page, I imagine, is what they're assuming when you click on your profile and it'll show you what kingdom you're in. Question 5, can an entire alliance migrate together? At present, only individual migration is supported. Yeah, and again, we knew that was going to be the case, but I at least appreciate that they picked that question out to ask. And they also didn't say that there were no plans or not that they would ever add something or consider adding that in. Question 6, even though you could have framed the question differently, right? Which is, would you ever consider adding an entire alliance migration together? Question 6, what are the specific rules of the new migration feature? We've made a series of improvements and adjustments to the rules of migrations, which can be viewed in-game after the feature is launched with V1.0.26. We'll outline the scope of application of the new migration feature and the core adjustments to the migration rules below to give you an idea of how the feature will work. Okay, so just basically just saying, hey, when it comes out, you'll know more. Scope of application of the new migration feature. Okay, at present, only migration to servers in the same season in the home realm battle preparation stage and before the new season preview is supported. So basically, you would need, so let me give you an example here, right? Let's use, oh man, I wish I could have used my other window. It's okay, we'll just come back. We know where we're at, scope of application. So let's zoom out and let's say that you are, let's just say we're in T1, right? So you're in season T1. What they're saying is that any of these kingdoms here that are specifically in the same season, but then the next subset is they have to all be in the home realm preparation phase, you can migrate to any kingdoms there. So let's say that the first 5, ST119 through ST122, are in their home realm prep phase, but the other 3 are not there yet. That means that you can only migrate between these 4, sorry, did I say 5? 4 KVK, basically kingdoms that are in these groups. It's not that you're migrating to the groups, you're migrating to the kingdoms that are within these groups, right? Because they're already in their home prep phase. So there's kind of 2 subsets. You got to be in the same season, and kingdoms in that season have to be in the home prep phase. Cool. Let's go back. And let's make sure I didn't miss my spot here. Where was I? Bump, bump, bump. Here we go. And then number 2, we divide migration into season migration and special migration. Season migration, if there are available migration slots on a server, you may relocate to it by spending migration permits after meeting certain conditions. Special migration, when there are no available migration slots on a server or the server is full, you may submit a relocation application to that server's king. If your application is approved, you must still spend the required migration permits to relocate. Okay, cool. So they're actually giving us some more details here. Now, for those of you who may not understand how like Imperium works, so Imperium is a kingdom's status designation in Rise of Kingdoms. What it means is that you are one of the top, it used to be you're one of the top 32 kingdoms. Maybe they've limited or lowered that, but I'll just give you that example. So you used to be where you were one of the top 32 kingdoms, and then no one could migrate to your kingdom over 25 million power. So you had this hard cap that was placed on you. Eventually they raised this to 35 million power. So players at 35 or 34, 999,999 and below could migrate to those kingdoms. And then if you were Imperium, you got one special permit per month You could stock these up to 3. You could have stockpiled at a time if you didn't want to use one for a particular month, or you were waiting to use them on a particular player, and maybe they just weren't available in that moment. And you could use this on what we would consider to be what I called an overcap player. So you could bring players in that are over the cap, meaning that you could bring people in that are 35 million plus. And that could be anything. You could bring someone in who's 200 million, 500 million, a billion power, etc. You get the idea. And so what they're saying here in COD is that you either have to have no slots available, meaning that all of your slots have been taken up, or you're full. Now, in most cases, well, I don't know if I want to say in most cases, probably in a lot of cases, or I'll just say some, if you use up all your available slots, there's a good chance that you could maybe end up being crowded or full, right? So based on the wording they have here, it doesn't seem as though if all the slots are used, that is always going to 100% mean or equal that your kingdom status will be full. They're just kind of giving you both ends of it, right? Even if it ends up being that most of the time or however much, right? They're just probably just trying to cover themselves in that case. But it's nice to see that that is how you get to that point, right? Which also means that you're not going to be able to use the special immigration before you use up all your slots or a kingdom is at full status. So it kind of, in a way, it almost promotes kingdoms to fill themselves up. It just depends on how people will go about it. Will they do more quality or more quantity with the amount of individuals that they're bringing in? Again, I still feel that they need to have a pure accept deny system, and I'm always going to be an advocate for that. I'm never going to stop advocating for that. It needs to be purely you, the king or queen, is able to accept and deny every single person that comes through. Maybe even giving permission to the ministers as well, right? Not the chancellors. I'm already forgetting if it's ministers or not. But basically the 3 people below the king or queen, being able to potentially give them the option as well to accept and deny people that are coming in, just so maybe you have a little bit more helping hands. But I'm still an advocate for that, and I'm always going to be, because I just don't believe that people should be able to come in and out kind of as they please. I think there needs to be some kind of vetting in there, and I think players eventually will start realizing this more and more for those that are in kingdom management. Then we get to core adjustments of the migration rules. Server migration, time frame adjustments. In the new version, you will fight for your own realm in Season 1, during which migration will not be possible. We already knew that. B, after Season 1 concludes, you may migrate to at any time. Oh, interesting. So now they're saying you'll be able to migrate after Season 1, which before it was only able to be done after Season 2. So you're not even going to be able to migrate a whole season earlier. Wow, that's a big change. I'm sure that's going to be a happy change as well, a welcome change for many. The destination server must be in the same season, that makes sense, in the home realm battle preparation phase and before the new season preview. So same thing along the lines, right? So an example of that, I'll give you an example of this. So if you go, and I'll have to show it to you 2 different ways to really hammer the point home. So you have 351 here, but if you look here, right, you'll see that we have, I think this might be the new one, 347, 45. Okay, this I think is the new one that just popped. But before this, these 6 kingdoms actually were not listed here. So it was listed to like 3 something or something of the other. But the other kingdoms hadn't started yet. And so the way you would figure that out is you would go like this. And we'll see if it still pops there. So I'd go to create. And if I go to create, you could see, so you could see here, right? So if I go to create, you could see 357. If I go to Season 2 pre-realm, you'll see, right? So this is what they're talking about, the pre-war realm, right? So you're still in your preparation phase, but you haven't gone into the next season yet. Right, so it's most likely going to be something like this, right? You kind of have to be in this pre-realm phase is most likely what the migration window is going to be. We'll, of course, see if that lines up and continues to, but basically you'll just look for those migration windows, and hopefully the system will tell you as well. Okay, then we're almost done here, so let's get to, where were we? Server migration in the new version, yep, right here, home realm, and then server status, classification, and migration slotted. Man, I wish they indented this. Just a little formatting here for me, please. Server status, classification, migration slot adjustments. Server statuses are classified as full, crowded, active, and normal. The migration slots available for a server depend on its status. Server migration slots are refreshed during each new migration period. When your power is lower than the server power... Oh, I see. So the server power is what the migration cap is at, right? So that's the server capacity you're setting it at. Basically, the power limit for players that you have to be below that in order to come in. I think that's most likely what that means. When your power is lower than the server power, so Season 1, it's 3 million, Season 2, 5 million, SOB 1, 10 million, SOT 1, SOT 2, oh, interesting, so we're going to get SOT 2, 15 million, you will not occupy any migration slots, meaning you can join even when there are no slots remaining. Yeah, okay, so this makes sense. It's similar to what I was telling you guys about that Imperium status in RoK, where if you were below 25 or eventually 35 million as they changed it to, you could come in for free, it wouldn't cost anything. So again, that makes sense, right? So what they're basically saying is that in Season 1, if you're under 3 million power, you can come in to the kingdom for free. It will not take up a slot. And then basically these are just the hard power limits. So that's nice to know. So I guess I wonder if that still means, well, yeah, you're still going to have to set a cap because it's going to take, the cap is what takes up slots. And then once you're full, then you get the special immigration. So it kind of goes in that order, bottom up. C, when a server is full, you will be unable to migrate to it through season migration if you would occupy a slot. Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because it's full. You can't go in anymore. And then we're almost done. Season migrants must meet the basic conditions such as reaching a certain city level, having resources within the storehouse limit, not being in a war, and others, and consider other matters such as their migration cooldown and post-migration event points. Special migrants must also meet additional special conditions such as the destination server's king requirements, application limits, and application validity periods. To keep this FAQ short, we won't outline all of the conditions here. You can find them all in-game after V1.0.26. This concludes our migration rules FAQ. Thank you for reading. Okay. So, I mean, really the biggest ones here is that we got an announcement, right? Here's kind of our summary TLDR. We got the announcement on what the server power hard cap limits are going to be, and players under those for each season can come into a kingdom for free. We also found out that you will be able to migrate a season early at the end of Season 1, just as long as you're in that kind of home realm prep phase, or most likely the pre-realm phase that you can find via the way that I showed you to by going settings, create new character. And then, again, we also found out that the amount of alliance points is going to be 400,000, so a little bit less. Those will refresh each week. And then also that the limit increased from 5 million to 10 million per one migration permit, where they originally announced it was 5 million. Now they're saying it's 10 million. And then you'll only need 60 migration permits to get for players at 100 million power and more, right? And given that alliance credits, thankfully, don't reset, hopefully those of you are stocking up a lot of alliance credits right now, as I most likely assume probably a decent amount of you probably have been, or maybe you'll start doing now before this comes out. But I want to say overall, when we look at the system, the only thing that we don't really know right now is what is the bundle cost going to be? Will it abide by a similar system that RoK does, where it's $1, $15, $35, and again, this is in USD, 35.85, 185, 185, 285, 385, and the 385 will get you 20 passports. Or, as I think I was talking to Meower earlier, and he mentioned he had asked CoD CS, and they said that it's going to be 385. Now, I don't know if there's going to be this many tiers, but that there's going to be $385 will get you a total of, if you buy each tier, will get you a total of 60 permits. So I believe that's what he had mentioned. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what the bundle is going to be, if that is true or not. If others have heard that, I'd love to hear. Let us know in the comments below. But if that's the case, and you can pay $380, I mean, that's a steal, right? The fact that it costs you $385 to do 20, if you double that, $770 will get you 45. But you're still only a little more than halfway there in RoK. I mean, talk about a massive money saver, right? I mean, you're at least saving 3 to 4 times, potentially, what it would, I mean, again, just comparing off of this sheet, right? Again, if these numbers are still accurate. So, yeah, I mean, listen, again, we can talk about the view of if people feel like, no, we should still get that one free migration in the beginning to use gems. And keep in mind, I believe they did say that the seasons will be able to do that. We've already seen a number of them have their first at the end of the season. Now, the question, have gems, where they could use 5k gems and not the passports. Now, the big question is going to be, will the current KVK groups also be allowed to use gems at the end of their season, right? Or before the passport system takes effect, because you have to think about the number of kingdoms that are still in their current season, right? If we go and we look at that, you have 8, You have the first 8 KVK groups that are going to be still finishing their KVK season out, right? So again, these are some of the strongest kingdoms, some of the strongest alliances, some of the strongest players, and they have still not finished their season. So will the new permit system take place for them by the time they come to the end, or will they still be able to use the 5k gems? You have a number of kingdoms here for the first few in T1, a couple here in SB1, and then a couple here in Season 2, right, that are already in. So will they get an opportunity to do it as well? Right, those are the two questions I think that we really have, is what's going to be the fate of those KVK groups and the kingdoms in them, and then two, what are the bundle costs exactly going to be, right, once we see them. Would love to hear your thoughts, right? If you agree, you disagree, share your views on the overall system. Again, I think that this is more favorable when you look at it face value in COD versus RoK. And really, it's just a matter of, and again, I'll probably do a different video kind of talking about the views. Would I be okay if they came out and did gem costs for the first ending of each of these KVK seasons for those that are still in KVK before they transition to the migration permit cost? I'd be okay with that. I think I would lean a little bit more in favor of that rather than them immediately going to the permit system. However, like I said, the one at least benefit I will give, the one tip of the hat, is that at least this migration system in COD does appear to be more favorable than RoK. So I think that's a win. And I think anyone can agree with that when you look at the data and the facts at face value. So let me know again what you guys think in those comments down below. Would love to hear. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.